This is a very interesting time in America, actually in the world. Um, when we think about how people are developing themselves as human beings, women, men, children, teenagers, at the end of the day, truly, people want to be appreciated. They seek to be nurtured. They seek to be loved in some way. But more than anything else, people want to be respected. So it dawned on me during the course of our talks and our interviews that no one thing stands out more in the life of a human being than the respect that they garner from other people. And it's not just one thing that creates this desire or this tendency to respect a person. They're educated, either formally or informally. And in the course of receiving that education, they learn things about themselves. They are nurtured by parents, mentors, or by people who care enough about them to correct them when they're young. They're constantly reminded of certain spiritual or religious tendencies. Because I believe at the end of the day, any spiritual group or spiritual teaching focuses on making a person acceptable and really better each day. I mean, if we're talking to you about not stealing, if we're talking to you about respecting other people, if we're talking to you about respecting yourself, it's going to make you a better person at the end of the day. And whether it's Taoism, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Christianity, the objective there is to create some kind of format that creates a better person. So in looking at this journey that we're on as people, we've seen times when human beings have been a lot less accepting of other people, a lot less tolerant, collectively. We've seen a time in America where the shootout was a thing that people did, where it was no big deal for a person to walk in and shoot another human being. We've seen the period of history when Americans were reaching to be millionaires, to have gold, to conquer a portion of the country. And now we're looking at a period of time where certain things that weren't fashionable or certain things that weren't really acceptable are acceptable. And one of them is attitude. I heard someone say recently that the attitude of certain rappers is such that they're going to get it all, or they're going to make the money or die in the process of doing it, that type of attitude. And that the person who was speaking to me was saying that they had an admiration for that kind of attitude. And the only thing I could think is, where did the appreciation for self-respect, where did the appreciation for kindly conversation with another person, where did the appreciation for respecting females, respecting your adults, respecting your parents, where did that period go? And what happened is a lot of the laws in our country and a lot of the popular culture in our country took it away. So we look at talking to young men today in particular, and young women, but since my work is primarily with young men that are becoming business people and becoming leaders, we look at pointing out to that person that it's not just the car that you're driving that's going to be your calling card. It's not just the watch that you're wearing that's going to be your calling card. It's not the club that you go to, or the restaurants that you go to. It's the person that you take into the restaurant. It's the person that has the watch on. It's the person who is in the car, driving the car, that really, really sums this thing up. So my tendency is not so much to speak about the coat that I put on your back, or the shirt that you put on, or the necktie that you put on. Who is the person that's putting the suit on? Who is the person that's tying that necktie? Who is the person that's going to the barber shop to get his hair cut? Who is the person who arrives at his destination for a date, says hello, and walks out of that apartment with that young lady? Who is that person? That is far more important than all those other things. And believe it or not, if the person has been nurtured properly, the end result will be exactly what they want. It's kind of like the story of a father that's pretty busy one day, and his child is on a nervous side, and the child wants something to do, and the father wants the child to get out of his hair. So what he does is he takes a photograph of a guy, and he turns the photograph over, and on the back of the photograph, it's kind of like a map. There's a lot of interesting things on the back of this photograph. So the guy tears up the picture so that he creates like a puzzle for this child. And he gives it to him and says, look, sit down and do this, and when you get finished, we'll talk. So in about maybe 5 minutes, after tearing this thing up into about 100 different pieces, the little boy comes over. He's got the thing laid out on a clean piece of paper. And he says, there it is, Dad. And the father looks at him and says, so how did you do that? He said, well, I looked at the back of this thing, and it was a picture of a guy. And I realized that if I put the guy together, that the puzzle and all the other stuff on it will come together. My point is this: if we work on making sure that the human beings that are going out into the world understand the importance of clothing themselves, the importance of their physical fitness, the importance of their spirituality, the importance of their education, and their importance of how they interact with other people, the guy's going to come together. So while we may take the opportunity from time to time to talk about a necktie, or to talk about a pair of shoes, or to talk about cars, or talk about going to great restaurants, really what we're getting at is the essence of the man. And so for today, we're looking at how important it is to create a respectable person as you take yourself into the world. And with that, I rest my case.